Welcome to another edition of Smells Like Hope, the podcast dedicated to shining the light on drug and alcohol addiction. I am your host, Rob Wiles. I'm a 20-year professional wrestling veteran, and I'm also an addict. Joined, of course, by my co-host, the lovely and talented Chris Casanova. We intend to show you a better road, a better way, help guide you to hope. Oh, and we're back again for another edition of Smells Like Hope. I'm your host, Rob Wiles, joined, of course, by the wonderful, awesome, and talented Chris Casanova. What's up, brother?
Oh, love the ovation.
Well, everybody loves Chris Casanova.
So it's great to be back. I wasn't on the last episode, so I had some prior engagements, but I'm glad to be back.
Well, that's okay. You know, the last episode, and I know it was so last minute when I sprung it on you. I had this moment of inspiration that I had to get something down. And, you know, you were with your son and you had your own things going on. And nobody minded except for the virtual crowd. They all gave you a nice awe.
Well, I almost missed this episode. I just got done showing a house, and I was trying to scramble, get home. I was like, am I going to get home on time? I get home on time, and I got home. So there you go.
Way to hustle, brother. I almost missed
this one, but yeah.
We would have made it work for you. We're going to have a guest coming on here very, very shortly. But, you know, Chris, man, there's this thing that I saw online today that just blew me away, and I'm gonna run it down to you. And it's about addiction, but a kind of a different way of looking at it. Apparently, about 20 years ago, there was a scientist who was experimenting with addiction by using rats, right? So he put this rat in a cage by itself, and he put a bottle of water, of regular drinking water in. And then on the other side of the cage, he put a bottle of water, but this was laced with cocaine or heroin or something.
Oh, wow.
And he found that the rat was always going to the laced bottle of water. And it was going to the bottle of water way more than the rat would commonly do to quench thirst. It was doing it to get high until eventually it overdosed and died. And he did this.
No kidding.
Yeah. And he did this experiment with different rats several times. And he got 100% of the time the rat was going to the laced bottle. And 100% of the time, the rat was overdosing. So he was basing all these opinions for people and their drug addictions based on the rat. Well, another doctor popped up and he said, that's not a fair experiment because you have this rat in a cage alone. And it has nothing to do all day except get high until it dies. So he built this thing that he called Rat City. And it's like everything you could or Rat Park, everything a rat could possibly want to do, tunnels and play areas.
Wow.
But the most importantly was other rats. So you have these rats now that have the same thing, you know, over here is a bottle, and they're right next to each other, a bottle of regular water, and the next was a bottle of drugged water. And surprisingly, the rats were staying away from the drugged water. And that just speaks volumes. Because let's think back to my days. When I was selling Coke, what was I doing? I was going out and selling it. I was going right back home, sitting alone and getting high all day long.
Sure.
And that's the problem is addicts seem to isolate themselves into this little bubble of misery and self-loathing and aloneness, and we just keep getting high because what else do we have to do when we're sitting there all alone all the time?
Basically they're like a rat in a cage, basically.
Exactly. Kind of gives new meaning to that song, doesn't it?
Well, no, I think it's very interesting. Wow. I mean, in a cage, and then
in Portugal, right after this doctor created, you know, his rat park, and he kept testing because there's several steps to when you're trying to make a theory in science. So he kept doing it with different kinds of rats and different kinds of environments and different breeds. But the results were always the same, that when these rats were together and they were able to socialize, and some of them still were going to the bad bottle, just like some of us will still go to the bad bottle.
Sure.
But it was, to me, it was just fascinating. So the president, Portugal used to have this overpowering drug problem. And that was back in the days where people were saying, well, we need to isolate these drug addicts. We need to keep them away from the world. Hence the guy putting the rat in the cage by itself with the drug bottle. So he brought together all these the prime minister of Portugal brought together all these doctors and scientists and big names, big brains, and said, how are we going to solve this? I don't want to hear about, well, this might work, and let's make this work.
Yeah.
So what Portugal did was said, let's legalize all drugs, everything. And the money that we're making off the sale of those drugs, let's now put that money into some socialization projects. Let's put it into accounts so we can give recovering drug addicts funds to start businesses, and everything started going down. The overdoses started dropping. The general legalized drug use started dropping. The only thing that really showed sales going up was marijuana, of course. But the other drugs were dropping down. It's insane how much progress they've made and how the rest of the world has seemingly ignored said progress.
Wow. So they were basically improving their lives with this money. They were kind of putting money into them, like, let's invest in these.
And,
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I could speak for myself saying that the road to recovery has been kind of amazing in the sense of I've learned how to, re-socialize with people and be out there in the world, and looking at through the eyes of an addict. Like, the world looks like a better place to me. And to a lot of guys, to a lot of people who are coming through and coming out of the tunnel.
Wow, that's powerful. That's amazing.
Yeah. And I feel like let's at least just start with the United States. You got to start your fight at home, and people need to start figuring out how to normalize out how they look at and how they relate to drug addicts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, that being said,
amazing.
I heard her coming to the door. Looks like our guest is here. You there, Gina?
I'm here.
Hey.
Yes, I am.
All right. I'm not going to obviously use your last name because we're still doing some semblance of anonymity on here, but you have a story that I read on Facebook and it moved me. And we got to chatting on Messenger, and you were telling me your past, and then the middle part, and then where you're at now. And I was like, oh my God, you have to come on my podcast.
Yeah, so it's been a while in the making, and just wanted to share it with as many people as I can.
And I want you to share it. And, why don't we just kind of start at the beginning? Please take it away.
I didn't get a chance to read the article, so I'm looking forward to this story. I mean, I didn't get a chance, so.
Nice.
Before we begin, I want to tell you that Rat Park experiment, it is just so amazing. I was listening along, and I got so excited when you started talking about it. And I tell people constantly, you have to change and destigmatize alcoholism and addiction. It has to be done. And part of what we're doing, and I'll talk more about this in a minute, but part of what we're doing is also destigmatizing childhood sexual abuse, so that we don't isolate ourselves and that, and create more drug problem of our own lives because of that. But
the isolating the drug addicts isn't good, because that's what we want. We want you to piss off and leave us the hell alone. We don't want people acting like they care about us, because to us, that's just bullshit. You're just trying to ruin our experiences of using.
Absolutely. I pissed my entire family off and found myself at the end. I found myself at the end in a stinky garage filled with dog piss that we were breeded dogs and fleas
Yummy.
and no windows. And yes, it was dark and dank. And it just, I was so miserable. But that's the isolation I wanted and created for myself.
And in that misery, you somehow find comfort. It's crazy.
Well, that was my question, right? I mean, so I'm come from the other side, but as far as, seeing this, but that was like a normal to you, right? I mean, as far as living in this garage, and I mean, was that like, that was like a normal part of your life, right? You didn't see anything like, I guess, wrong with that, right? I mean, Tina, right?
Oh, good Lord, no, that was not normal. I had built that in, and I didn't like it.
Okay.
I had a pretty good life. I had some child sexual abuse in my past. I have some abandonment in my past with my dad. That was growing up, and when I hit the age where I was going to date and start looking for that future mate, I selected someone who would not give me that life, and I love him. And we created a really good life, but it was a designed life, it's for lack of a better word. I had 2.5 acres. I raised goats. I had 2 kids. I was the 4-H mom. We did classes at 4-H. I got my master's degree in literature and composition. I taught college. I had a pretty good life. I've never been rich. Money's always been an issue, but, that's not everything. And so, we had our struggles, but we did well. And I had 2 beautiful children, and somewhere I was overweight most of it, almost 300 pounds. And I had gastric bypass and lost 150 pounds. And I didn't know how to deal with it. Yeah, but I didn't know how to deal with it. Suddenly I was getting attention that reflects back to my childhood abuse. And I never had that attention before. So I kind of went a little nuts, and I felt so alone. I was self-isolating even back then. I was in a house with these people, that were my family, and no one understood or knew, or, they just didn't get me. I was empty, and I felt alone, and I felt no hope.
Well, before we get too far ahead on this, I wanted to ask you, actually, there's 2 things. First of all, you raise goats. That's really cool. I actually had a goat once myself. His name was Chris Casanova. Oh, thank you.
I thought it was just for this other show now. All right, we're starting with that on this. Okay.
But secondly, that attention that you were getting that, went back to made you feel how you felt when you were abused as a kid. When you were getting that attention and as an adult, did that feel like a safe zone for you?
No. I mean, if you are not used to being looked at as a sexual object because you hid your sexuality through weight, and which is what I did at 300 pounds. I hid it through weight. And then suddenly there's an attraction and then a confusion to that. Suddenly I'm getting affirmation that I am worthy because I am pretty, but also I'm feeling like an object. I'm only worthy for one thing, which is sex. And I started not trusting anyone. Oh, well.
Oh, wow.
They don't want nothing to do with me. They just want to get laid.
You're right.
And that just became this huge dichotomy. And the reality is all I wanted was that attention from my husband. And I couldn't get it from him. He became jealous because I was getting it from everyone else and I wasn't getting it from him. And like I said, it just really, really played games with both of our heads. It damaged my self-esteem as well as his.
Okay.
And I started drinking. That's when I started drinking. My first drunk was at 36 years old.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I must have missed that part. I thought it started earlier than that. So that makes this story even more compelling, that you can't blame it on, young and dumb.
No, my addiction was food. And when I couldn't eat food, I shifted to alcohol.
Because I'm with you. My real coke.
That's crazy.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I would say
my question was. Go ahead, Rob.
God, we keep just like running into each other. Oh.
Yay!
I was just going to say that my real cocaine problem didn't start until I was 40. So I can relate to you on that. But go ahead, Chris.
Wow. No, the going to alcohol when you turn to like drinking, like, I guess my question is like, what was that? Like, I guess at that time, what did you think that was going to, was that just going to ease the pain, or like, I guess what was I mean, I like to know the root of the reason, like for that, like, that makes sense.
Yeah, there's a part of here of the story that I skipped. I had gastric bypass.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Oh, did I say that?
Yeah,
I had to lose the weight, and then you can't eat, and then I started losing weight. I started getting that attention. We started going out and trying to have fun, and the attention, it felt good, confusing, but it still felt good. I'd never gotten that attention before. It validated me, even though I didn't really know that I didn't need to be validated in that way. And so, I started going out and drinking. What I found was that when I drank, I could feel. I could feel when I drank. For the first time, I could feel. I wasn't so numb. And a lot of times people they drink to numb themselves from the pain. I'd already learned how to do that. I drank to feel something, anything. I just wanted to feel something. And I could laugh and I could dance. And I've always been forward and outgoing. So I can't say that it gave me the courage to do this stuff.
Sure.
But I could do it, and I could enjoy some. And that was great at first, but it didn't stay that way. I ended up getting a divorce. I ended up quitting my teaching and ending my teaching career. I got my first public intox, and then I got my second public intox. And, just everything kept going downhill to the point where I was in that barrage. I didn't do that all my life. I had a good life, and I essentially ruined it.
In a relatively short time frame.
Yeah. Well, I'm 52 now, so it was a good 10 to 12 years. I don't know. I haven't done the math, but yeah, I 10 years is what I generally say was the damage time. Some bad relationships and abusive relationships after my divorce, and then no relationships because I refused to get into one. So I pretty much would be in a relationship, but there was no feeling, no emotion, no heart in it.
I think when you're in addiction, though, any relationship you enter into is abusive, no matter how it is, man, woman. Just when you're in that darkness in your life and you want to bring somebody else into that darkness, it's because they're offering a sense of chaos that you feel comfortable with.
Yeah, and that's what I attracted, was people who are chaotic.
Right.
And I couldn't understand why, but
that's great. So I understand. So like now at that point when you kind of went spiraling down, like, and you said it, happened, in about 10 years, like, did you during the way, did you see like, oh, this is not the way I want to go, or did you kind of just like, oh, this is just kind of what my life is at this point, or like, what were your thoughts on that? Like, did you see it coming as you're doing? I mean, I just want to understand, like, at that time, what you're thinking. I mean,
I could see it. I knew things weren't right. I knew I was messing up. I didn't know how to stop it. I did not know how to stop it. I wanted to, and there were times when I thought, well, I'll just quit drinking for a couple of days, but I never was serious about it. I had to hit that rock bottom before I could get serious about it. But look, when you spend 5 days in jail because no one will bail you out because they're tired of your crap, you think you're going to get out of jail and go, okay, I'm 5 days sober. I've gone through those. I should be good. And then the first thing you do is go find some more alcohol. That's when you realize that you have to make a change. And I still didn't do it. It took something really wild to make that happen.
And when you did finally decide just to quit, you went cold turkey, right?
But I didn't do it with a massive action. The massive action happened in February 2nd, 2018. My son committed suicide. I'm sorry, February 6th, 2018. My son committed suicide. And I wasn't there. He had been suffering from depression for quite a while, and I wasn't there to deal with it. And I was sober for the 3 days following his death, to deal with the funeral and all that. I actually wasn't sober. I was drunk the first day. I couldn't get to alcohol because I didn't have a car, so I was sober the next 2 days. And then as soon as I went back to the garage, I was drunk again because I just couldn't deal with it. And I spent the next 6 months drunk and on sleeping pills. The second I closed my eyes, I was visualizing my son's last hours. And I couldn't do that. So I started taking sleeping pills, and pills have never been an addiction, and it was easy for me to drop those, but the alcohol continued. I fell down the stairs and spent 3 days in the hospital, busted a spleen and a couple of ribs, and had to have a blood transfusion. And I was 3 days sober in the hospital and thought I'll never drink when I get out, and went straight home and got drunk.
Jesus, Chris, who's that sound like getting drunk and falling downstairs? My God.
Yeah.
That sounds like me, by the way.
Yeah, I fell apparently several times that night, and that is definitely me. I couldn't, I said to someone just recently, I said, it's really nice that I could be out dancing and stand up throughout the dance. So,
well, my one experience with that was we were both just tore back, and after I got Chris upstairs and we had an apartment together, got him safely inside, I thought, oh my God, we're going to have a hangover tomorrow. This is going to hurt. I better run down to my car and get the Tylenol. And that's when I fell down the flight of cement stairs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I never did get that.
I did.
I never did get that Tylenol.
No. Did you do the damage I did?
No, God,
I fell
no.
down 4 stairs and 3 days in the hospital. 4 stairs. That was all. That's all I hit.
No, I just cracked my kneecap open, like actually split it. Yeah, but that's nothing. I didn't break a spleen or break any ribs or no.
Yeah.
Ugh,
well, it still wasn't enough. It wasn't my rock bottom. It was what hit was my granddaughter's birthday party.
Oh.
Her first birthday party. I was there, and I had an emotional. I was drinking, but not heavily, because it's a kid's birthday party. You're not supposed to be drunk at your grandbaby's birthday party. And something got said. The ex's family was there. Something got said, and I ran straight out and proceeded to get drunk. In the meantime, prior to that, my father-in-law, who I trust and respect so very much, said, "Why don't you go to a meeting tomorrow?" And I was so desperate that I didn't think twice. I said yes. And then after I ran out and started getting drunk, I called my daughter and said, "Tell Glenn." I said no. And then I woke up at 6 o'clock the next morning, just in a panic. And that was it. And I said, "Tell Glenn I'll be there." And I was there. I was there an hour and a half early and afraid to leave the parking lot, so that because I didn't want to miss the appointment. I didn't want to miss an opportunity to get sober and stay sober. And I haven't had a drink since.
Well, big props to you and Glenn.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow.
And so hold on. You did quit drinking cold turkey, but I really want to stress to people listening, if you are an alcoholic, please don't quit cold turkey. The risk of death is entirely too high. There are doctors that will help you through getting off alcohol. If you're hearing this and you're feeling inspired, that's the point of this show. But don't feel so inspired that you do something dangerous to get right. There are so many other ways to do it.
It's true. I had an ex. We tried to get him off, and it did not work out well because of his detox. And I was 3 days miserable with family who was watching me and who would have made an immediate call. Had that not gone right, but it is very dangerous. I did a lot of research on the dangers of detoxing from alcohol, and everything from heart attacks to, oh good Lord, death.
Your body just shutting down, your body giving up because it can't take the horrible levels of withdrawal you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I think the only thing that saved me on that is because I had gastric bypass, it didn't take me much to get drunk. So, I mean, that's what I can guess. I was 3 days in a miserable, hungover state. It was the longest hangover I've ever had, probably because I wasn't, easing it up with more alcohol. But I was 3 days in a miserable state. But when I hear people talk about how much they drink, I'm like, I never came close to drinking. And I think that was one of the things that made it hard for me to see myself as an alcoholic is, that I never drank near that much. If I drank that much, I'd be on the floor. I couldn't drink that much and stay awake to have another shot. And so I was like, no, I don't drink as much as other people, and I don't. But that might be why. And I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but it could be why the detox wasn't as bad for me as it was for some. I just didn't drink as much as some. I will tell you though that I blacked out and I did stupid things, and I had, I got drunk faster is all. I got drunk faster.
Wow.
I think you got lucky.
Oh, I got very lucky.
Because the physical addiction to alcohol doesn't have anything to do with how much you're taking in. It has to do with how your body reacts to it being taken away. That's why I hear these heroin addicts all the time saying, "Oh no, heroin is way worse coming off than alcohol." And maybe that's true, but the chances of you dying coming off heroin are nothing compared to the chances of you dying coming off alcohol.
Right. I've heard the stories. I've been in the rooms long enough to, definitely hear one of our members says, "I just wanted to stop throwing up." And that's a mild one, but just the throw up.
And that's how it is with heroin addicts as well. They explain it as, imagine the worst flu you've ever had, and then times it by 10, and the pain is what makes them go back to it.
Yeah, that's what I felt. I felt for 3 days the flu. It was just awful. But I have been doing great since. So.
I feel like.
How many years?
Yeah, there you go, Chris.
It's been 2 years sober. I've been 2 years sober.
For how 3 years sober. Okay. Wow.
2 years. 2 years.
Oh, 2. Okay.
Yeah. I just celebrated my second year sober September 2nd, and done a lot of work on myself, and I am still recovering, some of the losses. I'm still living with my parents. At this point, taking care of them more than them taking care of me, but I'm still doing that. And, but I see progress every day, and my life is so much better now. So much better. I can smile and I can laugh without alcohol. And that's pretty awesome.
Wow. That's amazing.
Go ahead, Chris.
Wow. I'm just amazed by that. I have nothing to really say to that. Just amazing. Like 2 years, that's such a long time to do that. That's remarkable.
And a point that I want to hit on that I talk about, when I speak at groups or whatnot is it doesn't, when you're coming off whatever your drug is and when you're brand new to recovery, you still can't really see that light at the end of this tunnel of darkness. But I'm telling you, people, it gets easier. It does get easier. If it didn't get easier, there is no way that I would be at the point that I'm at. And I've got 2.5 almost years clean right now. And Chris can attest to how bad I was when I was really out there running and gunning. I mean, I was in bad shape, and I didn't even see like the pinhole of light at the end of a tunnel. It was just all black.
Right. I was so lucky. When I was done. And in fact, I think I was talking to you when we were messaging. I said I was lucky enough that I haven't had those triggers, those urges to drink.
People, places, and things.
The other night we had a football group over, and there was whiskey on the countertop, and oh my God, I didn't want to drink, but I was definitely preoccupied with that bottle, and that was the first time in 2 years that I've ever had that feeling.
Well, that's rough.
It was scary. It was scary, yeah, but I got really lucky with that, and it does, that idea that it does get better. Yes, that was a bad moment. It wasn't I didn't fall to it, but that was a bad moment, and I lost my train of thought.
It
took about six months to start seeing that light.
That's impressive.
Your head clears, and it clears, and I can see now how much it cleared in that time. And about 6 months in, I was starting to really actually see what I was doing to myself in the past and what was happening.
Well, sure. But I think if I walked into a room and I saw a bunch of rails of blow cut out on a counter, I'd like to say that I would be able to walk away, but honestly, I don't know if I could. I don't know. I haven't tested myself. So you were put to the test and you managed to overcome it. And Chris and I, we're professional wrestlers. So I would like to think, because eventually that obstacle will be thrown in my face. It just will. And I would like to think that I could stick to my convictions. And, I know that I'd have Chris there to be like, hey, why don't we take a walk and get the hell up out of this place? But I would like to think I would be okay. But right now, I can't say for sure.
Yeah, so that's exactly what happened to me. My partner was here. He's sober, been sober 26 years. And I walked up to him and said, I'm having trouble with the bottle. And he says, do you want me to have him move it? I go, no, I just want your support. I need you to know that I'm having trouble with the bottle.
Was this happening at your place?
It's at his place. We were, okay. Yeah, it was and he knows, we just didn't think about it. I've not had any trouble with it. So, and I've gone out to bars and to weddings and been around alcohol, and it hasn't bothered me at all. It's just for some reason this one time it did. I think it was whiskey and they were doing shots, and I was thinking, oh yeah, I remember that. And I got preoccupied with it. But I had my support system in my partner, and again, he's 26 years sober, so he's pretty solid in it. Not that he couldn't relapse, but he's pretty solid, and we help each other.
And so that's people listening, if nothing in this whole entire podcast has been able to inspire you to this point, that should. Because like I say all the time, people in recovery are heroes, but heroes never do it alone. You got to turn to your partner sometimes to say, get me the hell away from this temptation.
Well, I think that support, but so I have an interesting question. So when you're looking at that bottle and you said there's people there taking shots, was it like that? I'm trying to think of the right word. Was that camaraderie? Everybody doing it? Was it like, is that the reason why you're drawn to that bottle? Like, oh man, they're having so much fun over there. Like, what really was distracting you with that bottle? Like, was it people around doing it? I mean,
they were discreet. Okay. And not doing those shots visibly. The bottle was on the counter, and I knew they weren't mixing drinks, so I knew there were shots. I didn't even see the shots. The bottle was just on the counter, so I wasn't watching them enjoy themselves. It wasn't about that. The football game wasn't interesting me, so it wasn't about that. I had my head doing social media stuff, so I was focused on that. Other than there was a bottle on my kitchen counter, and that's not supposed to be that way anymore.
Right.
And
okay.
Yeah, and it wasn't like get the bottle off because I don't want it there. It was get the bottle off because I feel occupied with it.
Right, yeah. And you had that moment like, okay, this could turn bad if days or okay. Wow.
Yeah. If this wasn't there, I don't know that I would have been as strong as I was. Yeah, that Rat Park thing that is so true. I've written articles about Rat Park and the Portugal experience. I've watched stuff about that and written, and I tell people all the time, it is the environment you're in. It is the acceptance in the community. There is so much shame involved in addiction and alcohol abuse and childhood trauma. That's why I think that there's such a connection. There's so much shame in it that if we can remove that shame, people will have a much easier time getting over their addiction.
Absolutely.
The thing with the Rat Park is they had activities, they had communication, socialization. I'm sorry. They were able to have sex when they were supposed to.
Right.
They were able to, it's just they had the ability to interact, and they could choose the drug-filled bottle, and they did choose the drug-filled bottle from time to time, but it wasn't a primary source of their life. They didn't choose it all the time. They drank, per se, the way we really want to drink, which is, okay, sometimes I can drink, sometimes I can. It's just not a focus. And that's the thing with the Rat Park, and that's what they're finding is happening in Portugal, is when you take that stigma away and your shame away and start treating it with respect, then you get people who are detoxing themselves, as the rats did. They detox themselves. So, yeah, I don't think you mentioned that in the experiment. They found that the rats, they had isolated in the second set of experiments with the second doctor, they had isolated rats and and created drug addict rats and then put them in rat park and they detoxed themselves.
Huh. I didn't hear that part.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, it makes me want to look that article up and like really do some research on that, because I find that very, very interesting.
Oh, and there is so much more than just an article. I mean, it's huge online, and I just that goes to show, like in the United States, for instance, the treatment is not in the cure, or the money is not in the cure; it's in the treatment. And I hear people all the time going, "Oh, well, you never had to do that first line of coke." Sure, but have you never done coke? Some of them say yes, some of them say no, and most people, when it comes to just cocaine, most people that I used to sell to, I called them all weekend warriors, because I wouldn't hear from them but on the weekends, and they would get themselves a couple of balls and they would party for the weekend. Then when they were done, what was left over, they just put away and went back to their life. And that used to amaze me. There's no way I could just put it away. If it's in the house, I'm doing it, and that's just the way that it is. But that goes to speak to somebody who's already probably inclined to addiction. But even me, I chose to take people's stigma and judgment and just tell them to shove it up their ass. I don't give a damn. I'm a 20-year professional wrestler. I'll beat the wholesale shit out of you if you don't leave me alone. But there's lots of people who can't take that stance. There's people who, like, I hear people in these meetings, even now, when they've gone through the inpatient, they've gone through outpatient, and now they're in the meeting phases, and they are still just punishing themselves so much for, damage that they've done in their life. And I always tell them off to the side, look, you keep doing what you're doing, and all those burned relationships, all those people that you swear hate you, they will forgive you. They will forgive you. Just show them why it's safe to forgive you now.
Right. One of the first things I did to get sober, when I got sober, was start working on my mindset. I could have dwelled on how much damage I did, and I chose not to. I said, okay, I did damage, and now how do I fix that? And part of fixing that was my head. And that's what happens in the rooms. When you start talking about it and start telling these horrible stories, and everyone's just laughing like it's no big deal because everyone else has done it. That is destigmatizing,
Yes.
And it's shame removing. It is healing to hear the stories.
I tell this story every now and again, like when I go to a new group, about I call it the nightstick incident, where I was up for probably 4 days, just rolling hard. And apparently I went to some kind of a psychosis mode, because I decided to go out my door and down the street in the middle of the night to the park in boxer shorts, a t-shirt, and socks, mismatching socks at that. And I was playing in the playground. Now, I don't really remember this. What I do remember was 2 security guards, armed security guards, showing up, trying like hell, very calmly, to get me to just tell them what's wrong, tell them where I live, and how can they help. And I decided to go pick up this really large piece of wood, this stick, where I was going to take these guys on. And what I didn't know before I picked up this stick was they both, in fact, have sticks as well. And they both know how to use them. So they basically whooped ass on me until the cops showed up. And for some reason, this cop was sympathetic, knowing that I was up for 4 or 5 days on a cocaine bender. And he got me home. Nobody pressed any charges. That probably didn't do me any favors, but I ended up getting a get well card from the security guards that just got done macing and beating the holy hell out of me. But it's... Oh, God, those were the days. But it's people like that. It's people like that make you look back on stupid decisions and bad experiences you make, and none of them judged me. So that story isn't a moment of shame for me. It was leading up to me realizing that I have to do something.
Yeah.
After I healed, because boy, they tuned me up, man. It was a rough couple days after that.
Oh.
I don't think I ever told you about that one, did I, Chris?
No, you didn't.
They beat the hell out of me, boy. Whew. So we've gone over some horrible points and we've touched on a few things that you're doing well now, but let's touch on more. Let's touch on giving these people a message of hope and how this road to recovery has really benefited you. Are you still there?
I'm here. Yes. So, I was waiting for a question.
It's not really a question. Now that you are 2 years clean, like, let's tell everybody the benefits, because the point of this show is, of course, to tell the nightmare roads we've been down, but now let's give some hope. It smells like hope. What does your hope smell like?
It smells like hope. Well, I'm currently working on this huge project with my partner. One of the things that I have wanted to do for years is to write a book. And the other thing I wanted to do was help other people who had gone through some childhood sexual trauma. And together, we are writing a book about addiction and child sexual trauma to try and bridge the gap between the two, and to help people who are suffering from one and the chronic relapses that they have because of the other.
Sure.
You know, so I wouldn't have been able to do this drinking. I barely dreamed of it drinking, but one of the things, I think probably 10 days after I got sober, I went to a meeting, and it was a meeting on the beach in Pensacola, Florida. It was 10 o'clock at night, and I should not have been there because I was newly sober and I was alone and taking a huge risk. Pensacola is a party area,
right,
in the middle of summer. So anyways, I was on this beach meeting, and one of the things that the guy says is that he said our alcoholism is a gift. And I thought, oh, and what do you mean by that? And he says, because we've experienced this, we can give it to others. We can take our skills that we're already gifted with and our experience that we are now gifted with, and we can share it, and we can offer others hope. And that one statement offered me hope. I had lost hope. When I lost my weight and finished school and didn't have anything else to work for, I'd lost purpose and I'd lost hope, and I didn't have any. And in that one night, he gave me some hope. And that was just like the most amazing thing for me, to have some place to go, something to do, and a way to give back and to help others. And that has just been the biggest thing for me, is to have that back. It's like my life has been renewed. And
well,
so now we're working on
to keep it, we have to give it away.
To keep it, we have to give it away. One of the things, I used to teach a philosophy class, and I taught Plato's Allegory of the Cave, and I'm going to be really quick with this because it could be long, but Plato's Allegory of the Cave said that we are caves, objects in a cave, and what we see are, our faces are tied, and what we see is the shadows of us on the wall, and we don't think of them as real. And once we start to look around and we're able to see, we're released from our chains, we're able to see, we look around and we realize what we've been in, that we're not objects, we're people. And once we go out of the cave, it hurts for a while, and you can see the light, but it burns your eyes. But then things start getting better. Your eyes acclimate, your body acclimates, and you start to heal, to see what a good life can be. And that's where I hit once I got sober, was where a good life could be. What Plato then says is that it is our responsibility to go back into the cave and help others out, because we've been given this gift of an experience. And the only people that can truly do it and that can truly understand what people in the cave are going through is someone who's been there. I've been there, and that was a huge gift to me, to be able to do that and to go back into the cave. And that's what I'm doing now.
That's fantastic. I used to tell people when I was inpatient and the guys were coming out, being a cokehead, I didn't have to go through detox. I just went straight into inpatient. So when I would see people coming from detox into the community, and their faces were sagging, their body posture was low, I would tell them all the time that, don't worry, soon the light won't hurt your eyes anymore.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Have you heard about Plato's Allegory of the Cave?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes, I have.
Good. A lot of people haven't heard about it, but if you know it and you know that part of it, and actually the first time I heard it, I didn't extend it to go back in the cave. I just didn't catch that, but that's what I taught my students, and I think it's so important that we do. I mean, this gives us hope. You know, if you've got it, you got to give it away to keep it.
Oh, we're those soldiers who are going behind enemy lines to pull soldiers out. That's what we do after we've been trained.
Yep. And it is so rewarding. So rewarding.
Absolutely. It's the whole point. That's the whole point of this podcast.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And speaking of podcast, you're about to launch one of your own, yeah?
Yes, we are. We're working on Back Porch Chat. Right now we have, I just actually opened up my Facebook group. You can find it on Facebook on Back Porch Chat if you Google that. But the podcast is, it is talking about the connection between childhood sexual abuse and addiction. And we have lined up a bunch of stories from people who have gone through the two. We also have some therapists that we want to talk to. And then, of course, there'll be just Vince and me chatting about ways that we can help you. And, you know, I think that a big part of my healing has been understanding the process. Understanding, for me, it's been affirmations and gratitude and meditation, and so we want to add some of that in there as well. But understanding what our body goes through, what our minds go through when we have that kind of trauma happen to us, and the disconnect that we go through from that kind of trauma and how it leads to addiction is really important.
Well, I'll tell you what, right now, Back Porch Chats, the group on Facebook, I just submitted my membership.
Oh, yay. Well, I'm excited now.
Woo! We're going to make this we're going to get this thing out there.
Awesome.
Well, we are coming up to the end of our time for our little podcast. You know, people with addiction issues have a notoriously short attention span, so we don't drag them on too long. But folks out there listening in podcast land, as per usual, if nobody has told you lately, we love you. You are not in this fight alone. You deserve better. You are worth it. All you have to do is reach out and grab it. You have 3 people sitting right here who are telling you that we are here to help, just like 100,000 people out there are here to help you. You don't think you're worth it right now, but you are. And to those of you who are on the road to recovery and are doing well, maybe multiple years, reach out there and help those people who are suffering in silence, because there's no reason, as we all know, there is no reason for them to be doing this alone. If we have the knowledge, then we have the obligation to help them. Gina, do you have anything you want to add in closing?
No, except for thank you for having me on. This has been really fun, and it's been a warm up to when we really start. We've been doing podcast practices. This has been a really important warm up.
You told me you've been doing that. You've been getting nervous and freezing up, but boy, you handled this one like a champ. Like you've been doing it for years. So good job! Yay, you!
It flowed, I tell you.
Chris, anything you want to add in closing?
I just say, like, you know, this is my second, for podcast I've done this, and I'll be honest, I'm learning something every single time. I learned so much today, Gina, just by talking with you and asking you questions, and it just kind of opened my eyes up, quite a bit. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And just to let everybody know, on the next episode of Smells Like Hope, coming out in about a week from now, of course, you might not be listening to this for a year from now, but on the next episode, episode 5, we are going to have World Wrestling Federation icon Duke the Dumpster Droese sharing his stories with us and his messages of hope. He is all over Facebook doing all kinds of podcasts to tell you the same thing that we are trying to tell you, that light at the end of the tunnel, although it hurts your eyes, it's worth it to be in it, and there's all kinds of people to help you adjust. Come see your boy Rob. I'll give you a pair of sunglasses. So, Gina, excellent job. Chris, my man, always a pleasure. And in closing, if you are in the Texas area and you are interested in buying or selling a home, talk to my boy over at Ward Realty. He'll hook you up. I'm going to give you the information right now. Gina, hang the line for a minute, would you?
Yes, I will.
All right. Thanks, guys. Are you in the market for a new home in Austin, San Antonio, San Marcos, and the surrounding areas? Have you had bad experiences with realtors who work just hard enough to get that commission? Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't your realtor supposed to be looking out for your best interest and getting you the best deal possible? Well, friends, listen up. Chris Ward is that realtor, and I speak from personal experience. He's going to fight to get you into your dream home at your budget. He's always going to be 100% with you, and he'll get the answers to those confusing questions that go along with buying a home. It won't cost you a thing to give him a call and get the ball rolling for you. And sellers, he'll work just as hard for you, protecting you from predator buyers, lowballers, and scam artists. Give him a call at 512-618-5110 or check him out online at chriswardrealestate.net. Again, 512-618-5110, chriswardrealestate.net.